Hi guys, it's Susana from Madrid, Spain. I promised you in the last video that I would speak about the final stage of Kundalini, which for me does not happen in the body. It would be what I call the goodbye part of Kundalini, which happened to me after 15 or 30 minutes of huge orgasmic, ecstatic, explosive Kundalini in my body. Okay, so I represent it like this because it's impossible to represent it. Okay, so after this, when Kundalini passes through sahasrara or the crown chakra, that's when the important thing happens. And that's why I'm doing this video, because I would like to address this part of the experience. First, I would like to show you my room because I think it gives a lot of information about a person. So you have here my clothes and because I'm a sociologist and I'm writing a thesis, but I also enjoy very much painting. Okay, there's my surf board there. And today it is snowing in Madrid. Yes, it's very beautiful, isn't it? Alright guys, so I just wanted to show you a little bit more about my environment, because the environment is very important when we're talking about spiritual growth. And okay, so it's a happy day because it doesn't snow very often in Madrid anyway. So I'm going to close the door, because close the window. Sorry. So about the final part, I explained in the last video that the final part of Kundalini, it does not mean it is going to be a permanent state, but to me it's the highest place you can go. Like, there is no other place you want to go. Okay, at least for me. That's why I interpret my experience as complete, because to me it was like, you know, when the experience ended and I stood up and I smoked a cigarette like this, you know, I was like, in my mind there was this question, like something said to me, any other question, you know, like, this is all you need to know. And really I had no more questions about me, about life, about anything. For a long time I didn't make any other question, and still I don't have more questions about that. That means certainty. That means it's not a belief I have acquired by reading thousands of books or listening to thousands of spiritual masters. It means it's what I obtained was a certainty, being totally sure about something. I repeat, that doesn't mean if you've had this type of awe experience where you know the truth, it doesn't mean it's going to be a permanent state in you. In fact, my experience was one of those in which you have an explosive realization, and then you enter, you know, like a updating process where, you know, if I had gone to the desert after this experience and I had, you know, tried to obtain this experience again, very, very focused on this spiritual path, then I know I would have that permanent state of enlightenment. But it's not the case. You know, I have shown you my room because for me it's important for you to know that I am in the world, and for that I need an ego. As you can see, I have an ego, and that is useful. I can operate in the world. I can eat normally. I can do normal things. And I wouldn't be able to do that in an enlightened state. So that's what happens to a lot of people like you, most of you who are watching me, that we have to be in the world, okay? Even if we have some glimpses of the truth and we want to speak that out. But that's why we are integrated in society. That's why we are not in the desert or in the mount, going deeper to that experience. It's like the universe is giving us these glimpses, this satori or samadhi, little glimpses of the truth, so that we can talk about that and help others be awakened. Because I'm going to go into the experience itself right now, but for me, I have the knowing that I could have stayed there. And one of the biggest questions I have made after that was, what am I doing here back again? You know, like, why didn't I stay? You know? And yeah, that was hard, you know. And I've sometimes cried, like, what am I doing here again? I wanted to be there, really. But you know, something inside of me, I don't feel like I was like rejected from heaven or something like that. I feel I had to come back and to tell other people. And I know a lot of you watching me know what I'm talking about. You know this is true. We are beautiful light beings. We are pieces of the divine. And we come here to one of the most obscure and dark squares or little, you know, holes of the universe to spread that light. Even here. So we are the bravest souls. Alright, so I'm going into the experience itself. What happened when I left my body through my sahasrara chakra. And okay, so I had this ecstatic, explosive Kundalini awakening. And at the end of the experience, it was like all the energy was coming up very slowly. Like if all these worlds inside of me, all these stars, all the little beings that were like lights inside of me had left my sahasrara chakra, and I was the last one. Okay, it's like if all of my brothers and sisters, you were one of those little beautiful lights coming back to source. Okay, in my experience, I was the last one to leave the ship. You know, and all of you were waiting for me. This is a very personal experience, because when we have a revelation from God or the source, it is always personal. Personal meaning every spot is going to experience it differently. Okay, the return to source is different for every being. And I'm not talking about the ego here. Okay, I'm talking about my soul. Because what I experienced is that everything was becoming silent. I could still feel my body with the echo of the ecstasy. but I was starting to not feel my body because my body had expanded too much. You know, my skin was not a frontier of me. Space had been had become relative, relative, and all these worlds going out. And I was like, where am I going? You know? Like my ego was afraid, you know? And so I asked, I was silent. All the experience, I was silent. I was not talking mentally. I was very focused here. But at this point, I was like, where am I going? I want to go with the divine. I want to go with light. Do you want to know what the answer was? What the fuck is the divine? That was the answer. At that point, I felt like if I was not in my body too much, I was like here, like coming up. Like if I was exactly in this point, you know, about to leave my body, but not yet. And I know this may sound crazy, but I started to, you know, like hear voices. At first, they were like laughing, and it was not nice, you know, like laughing about me. You know, but I was so focused that that could not distract me or make me be afraid. So just didn't. So I made this big question to the universe. I want to go with the divine, with light. And it was like different voices, like fractal thing. Like the answer would be something like, divine what fuck, divine what the fuck is, divine the what the fuck divine is. Like, you know, like different voices coming together, like in fractal thing, like not together, but it was like an like lots of beings that would be the same or act as one mind, you know. And at first I felt like, you know, attacked, like, okay, so I've had this 15 minutes or 30 minutes ecstatic thing in my body, and now you're laughing about me and I don't know who the fuck you are, you know. And I was like, I felt small. I felt very, very small. Like my ego was, you know, but something inside was very, very peaceful about this situation. Very easy. And so these beings repeated the question, but this time they were more soft or more loving. And they say, can you explain to us what divine is, what light is? and I said, from an ego I was talking with the ego, okay, because I was still afraid. I was not out of my body yet. I said, well, you know, the opposite of darkness. I don't want to go with darkness, you know. And I felt really they were laughing, but it was not laughing at me like, you know, no, no, no. It was more like laughing with love, you know, like poor dear, you know. So beautiful. I felt that these minds or beings were my sisters and brothers, you know, like the collective mind, but I don't know how to explain exactly. And so suddenly, these voices, I felt I was going upwards. I was really leaving my body. But not like you would leave your body in an astral projection, you know, like you leave your body like this and you leave your body with an astral body. No, I had no body. I had no energetic body of any kind. It was just like a mental projection, mental and soul projection. So suddenly I felt I was going up, leaving the body, not feeling the body very much. And suddenly these plural voices became kind of one, like if they were united, like instead of having echo and fractal projection, they were one. And this voice said, bring it to me, show me. She was referring to the darkness, because I said I don't want to go with darkness, and these beings were telling me, what is that? So when these plural voices became one, this voice said, bring it to me. That which you think is the opposite of me, bring it to me. And I was like, okay. I was still operating from my ego. I was afraid. I was fighting. I was resisting. I didn't have faith. So I said, okay, you want to see the darkness? Okay. So I remembered all the darkness, all the suffering. I remember especially when this Draco tortured me for 15 minutes about 6 years earlier, because a Draco reptilian being tortured me like very badly. So I remember all that darkness and all the suffering and my suicide tendencies in my adolescence and everything. And I said, okay, you want the darkness? Here it is. So it's like a fight. Imagine I'm leaving my body and this being is communicating with me. And it's like I put this darkness between this being and me, mentally, because this was not happening in space. This was a mental thing. So I put the darkness between both and said, here it is. Here it is. And you know what this being told me? And it was not a being. It was just like a concept. And I wouldn't receive his voice as a voice, talking. I would receive the voice as information coming to me like this, like in waves, like a concept. So this being said to me, okay, look at it and love it. It was not a phrase, it was not a sentence like this. I received the concept, and the concept would be something like look love, or love look love, like if it was the same thing, looking and loving. Okay. And I was like, okay. And the moment I tried to look at the darkness, I didn't want to, I was like, no, you're trying to deceive me. I don't know who you are. Maybe you're the big devil and I'm going to hell now. Because the ego is always afraid of, where am I going? Where can I go? And I was like, no. I didn't want to look at it, But finally I did. And what happened is that I tried to look at the darkness and I started to merge with it. And it just started to disappear. Something like, like a cloud. Oh my gosh, that was so beautiful. Sorry. That was so beautiful. And that's a personal revelation of God. because God would have a message for each and every one of us, which would be personal. My message is to love the darkness, to really know the darkness, because when you really observe with attention, you're loving. Your consciousness is love itself. The mere fact that you are watching me means that you are loving me, because where you put your attention to is where you are loving, because you are love. That's what I learned. And believe me, I wouldn't expect to be in a better place than that place where I stood for I don't know how long, and when I have defined this place for you guys, I have tried to define it from a negative point of view, saying what it is not. It is not space, it is not time, it has no space, it has no time, it has no fear. And I would also say there is no otherness. What I experienced is that when I passed through the darkness, which would be my fears, my demons, the illusion, there was no other one to talk to. It was like, hello, infinite echo. I didn't do that, but if I had done that, I wouldn't have obtained a response, because I was so united with everything that there was no other than me. And I'm not talking about my ego, because who went there to source was not me, was not my ego, Susanna, was my soul. Something here did the jump. Something here was very faithful about what's happening. It was my ego resisting, but my soul, something very, very deep inside knew. This part of you knows perfectly well where are you going, because there's no other place you can go. That's your ultimate truth, your ultimate home. And you can let yourself fall like this, and you would always fall to the same place. It's impossible to get lost. This being really badly, he or she wanted badly me to be with him, her, so badly. That's how I felt. And that's where you put the faith and say, okay, where do I have to go? Let's go. And it looks easier to say here, what faith is. But trust me, faith is not about believing something good is going to happen to you. Faith is about realizing nothing has ever happened to you. You have always been protected and pure and sacred and holy and complete in Source. As the Source, you are the Source. I am the Source. So what is God for me? God, Goddess, is the last being you can talk to or have an interaction with before you become the one. Because when you become the one, there is no one to talk to. That is why the mystics would say, I am the truth. Not only Jesus, but many mystics. This is not an idea. This is not a belief. This is a certainty.